Connecting AI agents to your real world data is usually a nightmare of custom API integration, but the Model Context Protocol or MCP changes that. In this video, I am going to explain exactly what MCP is and why it is becoming the standard of AI architecture. Hi everyone, welcome to my channel. And today we are going to discuss about MCP and MCP architecture. AI has completely redefined the way we consume information. With the introduction of LLMs, we can have a natural conversation with tools like ChatGPT, Gemini, or you can build a custom chatbot using an open source LLM in a natural language. But AI is also not omniscient. That means AI doesn't know everything, especially when it comes to business. The data business holds is generally private. But now, since businesses are transitioning to AI, how do we make sure users get the information what they're looking for? And how do you integrate with multiple database or application and fetch that relevant information in a language which user can understand? Yes, you can call an API, but we are talking about having a conversation. How do you make sure the API and the AI are context aware? This is where MCP comes into picture, Model Context Protocol introduced by Anthropica in 2024 to standardize how AI models connect to external applications and data sources. To understand MCP, let's first understand how we integrate today using REST API. In a standard REST architecture, between the client and the database, there is a REST server. The client sends a specific request, something like this. Server receives it, decodes it, check if you are allowed to see the information or not, and send you the response back. The catch here is the clients need to be smart. It should know which endpoint exactly you need to call, what are the parameters you need to pass, what is the schema, what will be the response type, and so on. If the API changes, the client integration breaks. And also REST API are stateless. So you shout a question to REST API, it shouts the answer back, and then it forgets you ever existed. And this is the most important aspect of AI integrations, the context and the state. Remember this. For example, let's say we build a chatbot using an API and I ask a question, what will be the weather in New York tomorrow? Based on the input parameters I have given in the chat, like the location is New York, the time is tomorrow, maybe you can call an API and fetch the relevant information. But what if my next question is, will it rain? Now, the API is not aware about what are you talking about, what is the location, what is the time zone, and so on. So the context is missing here. But how do we provide the context? I will show that in a demo. I will show you how model holds the context and generates the next set of query from the previous conversation we had to provide the better answer. I know it sounds confusing, but stay with me, it will all be clear in a second. So what is MCP? In a simple word, MCP is an open standard for AI application to connect to external data sources or external applications. M refers to primarily the model which you are using, basically the LLM, whether it's ChatGPT or Llama or anything else. Context is self-explanatory. It is the structured information the LLM derives from the conversation we have. Protocol is the open standard for communication, like JSON RPC 2.0. This is what it is used to communicate between the AI application and the server. A typical MCP architecture consists of three things. MCP host, which is an AI application like Claude Desktop, Cursor, or any other custom application. Then we have MCP client, which sits inside the MCP host and connects the MCP host to the server. And then we have MCP server. This is the bridge between your AI application to your data. So enough with the explanation. Let's set up a MCP server. And here I will use three things. First is Claude Desktop application, which is my AI application. And then I will use a Node.js application, which will act as a server. And then for my data source, I will use Salesforce. So let's get started. So I am following the instruction from the Model Context Protocol documentation. And here there is a document for build an MCP server. And you can build the MCP server in Python, TypeScript, Java, Kotlin, or any other language. So I'm using TypeScript and I'm going to use Node.js application for it. So first, let's set up a Node.js application. So here I have created a Node.js application. So now let's switch to VS Code. In the Node.js application, we need to install certain packages, MCP SDK, and Zod for the data validation, and JS4 for the Salesforce. I'm going to install these packages. So now we'll create a server.js file. You see the MCP documentation for the TypeScript. This is the basic structure of server.js file. So using this documentation and ChatGPT, I'm going to generate a server.js with some basic info. Okay, so with the help of MCP documentation and ChatGPT, so I'm using Codex AI, which is nothing but ChatGPT plugin for VS Code. I am able to generate a basic server.js. So in this server.js, I have some environment variables. You can see. So this basically set up the username, password, and the login URL. I am defining my MCP server. I am saying the MCP server name is MCP Salesforce demo. Then we have tools. So tools are nothing but when the AI application starts and there is a handshake happens between the AI application and the server. AI application calls the server and get the information, okay, what are the tools you are available. I will show you what are the information or the messages which is getting passed. So I have the logs from the previous hit and trial. So I will show you the logs, what exactly happens in the behind the scenes. So first, let me explain to you the server.js. So you have tools. So our first tool is get opportunities. You can have multiple tools. Opportunity is nothing but Salesforce object which holds the deals information. Description is the basic description you can have. Input schema, we just have one parameter as of now, limit. You can have multiple parameters and the AI on runtime decide which parameter it needs to pass. I will show you also that. And then we have the rest of the information. Basically, we are calling a connection, and in the end of the day, we are calling a query. So this is also a guardrail. So here I'm just fetching these informations. So basically, irrespective of what runtime informations or what parameters are there, AI cannot get more than this information. This is also a guardrail for me. And then that's it. So this is the server.js file. Our server.js file is ready. Now we have to create a .environment file. So here we need to specify the credentials. So for my org, I have these are the credentials. And then in the package.json, you have to specify which file is the entry point. And in the scripts also, you need to mention the node start. So now our server is ready. So what are the things we have? So in the server, we have all the packages which we installed for the connection. We have the tool, which is the get opportunities tool. And then we have specified our environment variables. That's all for the basic setup. Now let's move on to the Claude desktop application. So this is the Claude application. And here, if you see, there are no tools connected. As of now, there is nothing there. This is the basic web search. I can disable this, enable this. As soon as we enable the MCP server, we add the MCP tool, which we have just created. You will see the tool available here. First, we need to tell Claude that where is the server located. So for that, we need to change the desktop configuration of Claude application, and that is located at this particular location in Mac and this particular location in Windows. So we'll open the folder. So this is the location where you need to put the Claude desktop configuration. If you already have the file, you can add your MCP server. Basically, if you have at least one MCP server, you will have that configuration. If not, then you can create that particular file. I created this Claude desktop config file, and let me open it and show you the content of it. So this is the detail of the file, and what we are saying is we have a MCP server, and this is the location where this file is located, server.js, and then we have our environment variable, and that's it. So now we will close this file. So you have to restart the Claude desktop application. When you restart the Claude desktop application, the first thing which happens, it isn't the data request, it is a handshake called tool discovery. So what happens is AI application, which is the Claude, sends a request to the server about his information. The server replies with the capabilities of the server. What are the tools it has? So I have saved a sample request and response. So if you see, the format is JSON RPC, JSON remote procedure call, version 2.0. And what the client info is Claude AI with the version this. And the server reply is something like this. So again, the reply is in also JSON RPC. The name is get opportunities. And this is the properties we have. So right now there is only limit property. We will add multiple properties that we will see. And this is object type, the schema information, and so on. So this is about the handshake and tool discovery. Now in the Claude application, something doesn't load successfully. So what you can do is you can go to settings and in the developer, and here you see thus MCP Salesforce demo is running. If it doesn't run properly, if there is any error, you will see here the warning or error, and you will see a button here called open logs. So in the logs, you can investigate what happened. Now it is working perfectly fine. In the chat, we will see a MCP Salesforce demo added here. So if you go next, there is one get opportunities tool available. Now we can use this MCP server. So let's try something. So in my Salesforce org, I have 3 opportunities of now, and let's see if I can fetch certain information. So now let's switch back to Claude. I will ask a question here. Now what happens is, so Claude is trying to make a request, and here it is putting a limit of 5, which is the default limit. So this pop-up is about the parameters, and if you see here, there is limit 5, which is the default 5. I also mentioned 5. If I mention something else, it will be that value. I will allow only once, because every time we want to see what is the request and response. So I will allow once. And in my org, you saw there are only 3 opportunities. So it cannot get actually 5. So if you see here now, so these are the 3 opportunities it fetched. And if you see only the information, if I go back to the server.js file again, so here name, amount, stage, and close date. These are the only fields I am passing in the query. And those are the only fields it can fetch. If I put any other fields, that will also be fetched from here. So here, since there were only 3 opportunities, it got me all the 3 opportunities. So this was a very simple example with a very simple request. I've been playing around with the MCP server from past couple of weeks. I have generated a extensive file server.js with multiple parameters and requests. So let me update the server.js. Now good thing is, unlike the REST API where you need to inform about the schema changes and everything, if I make changes in the server.js file, I don't need to tell anything to Claude. It will automatically adapt. So let me update this file. So here, if you see, I have updated the server.js file. For the get opportunities, I now have a lot of other parameters like limit, time frame, start date, end date, stage, inactivity days, and order date. So all these are randomly or dynamically calculated based on my input. All this TypeScript code automatically generates the respective query, and definitely by the LLM input. And I also added one more get leads tool. So in this also I have multiple input parameters like country, string, status, and so on. So you can put n number of parameters, and based on whatever the information you have, and the LLM will be smart enough to generate the response based on that. So let me show you the example. Now in our tools, we have 2 tools, get leads and get opportunities. So let's test out the get leads tool. So if you see here, the parameters are automatically generated. The country is China and include by top revenue. This is not required, but let's allow it. If you see, I have total 13 leads from China. So if I see my lead database, so I have uploaded, I think 110 leads or something, 101 leads. So out of 101 leads, there are 13 leads from China. So this is what LLM does. It automatically, based on your context, generate. I will show you one error example as well. So here, there is one issue with the server.js file. I kept the issue deliberately so that I can show it to you. So now, so in this prompt, get all the opportunities which are closing next month. Here, the LLM has to either put a date filter from close date, which is starting from current month is December, so January 2026, 1 January, and the 30th January. So now let's see what it does. I know it is failing because I've tested it. I just want to show it. So here, if you see, the time frame is custom month, and the month is 2026, 1st of January, limit is 50. I will allow it. Since there is no filter like that, it should be YYMMDD. Now, if you see, first time it tried to fetch, it is giving an error. You see the error from the pop-up because the filters are not correct. Now it is trying the start date and end date way. Let's see it works or not. So this also failed. And if you see here, there is something wrong with the filter criteria. Now, what LLM is doing by himself is it is taking limit 50 all-time leads, opportunities, and then it will get me only the January opportunities. So now what you see here is, based on the information what we have, the AI tried to query multiple times. It failed multiple times, but it kept trying, and it changed its response automatically by himself. You are not changing the filters here. The AI is automatically changing the filters by himself. So this is where we call it being context aware. Now, let me give you another example. So here, what I am asking is, what are the total lead count by status? So let's see. So now, in the Salesforce, there is a way to get the aggregate query to get the count of leads by their status. But since we have specified a specific type of query, it is trying to get all the leads by each status. So let me allow it once. Then it is start checking for another status. And now we have our response. What the Cloud AI did is tried querying multiple times by filtering the status and kept all its count and presented the result in the end with a better UI. So here if you see, there are out of 101 leads, we have 30 leads which are closed not converted, and there is also percentage which is good. It is not there in Salesforce, and here you can see all the status are mentioning this, and there is additional info which is coming from the LLM itself. Isn't it wonderful? This changes the game. Rather than building a complex tree structure of chatbots, you build AI agents which have a bag full of MCP servers, and that you can pull out anytime when you need it. Today we saw the demo connecting it to Salesforce. You can connect it with any other application and create your own MCP server. And then finally you will have a universal port which can connect all your application. If you want the source code from this demo, I will leave the repository link in the description below. And that's all from the video. Now I have some food for thought question for you. So if the MCP server is a bridge between AI application and the databases, isn't it like a middleware? What is the difference between middleware and the MCP server then? Think about it. If you like my video, give a thumbs up and leave a comment if you want me to cover any other interesting topic. Thanks for watching.